How was it like working with Phil Knight back then?
Well, it was wonderful until he fired me.
The world of sports is absolutely wild right now, and nobody understands this better than the man who literally changed everything. I'm talking about Sonny Vaccaro, the legend who actually made the deal with Michael Jordan happen for Nike. The deal that saved Nike from bankruptcy and changed their orbit. This is the man who spotted young talent like Kobe Bryant and LeBron James before anyone else knew their names. He's now 85 years old today, which is why we had to shoot this online. But here's the thing, if you work in the world of sports marketing or you just want to build a massive career like Sonny, you should watch this episode. Because Sonny sees something right now that most people are missing completely. Why are Indian brands with all their money and scale not breaking through in the world of sports globally? Why are Indians only obsessed with cricket when there's a whole world of other sport opportunities sitting right there? And what does he think about the framework for building a sports brand today? With that, let's get into the episode. We are now a part of the Zerodha Media Network. Just want to zoom out a lot and want to ask you, you've headed a large part of marketing for big brands like Nike, Adidas, Reebok, while all of them were at their peak. Tell me, like, what is that one thing that connected all of them and made them great brands that they are today?
The one thing that those companies did is once they realized the breadth, the importance of their investment, they didn't just wake up and say, I want to invest in making the shoes for athletes. They were a business. What we were able to do and why it's so big today and why you see the girls' sport, especially in basketball, and especially with an individual like Caitlin Clark, who in America, what sports does for an industry, for selling shoes, for making shoes, is the whole world knows about those things. It was regional before. You were committed to your country, to your city. It was never that wide. But now we have human heroes who are salespeople. Instead of having to make an advertisement, all you have to do is have a good man or woman who can present your product.
Yeah.
And the easiest product in the world is a sporting event or a skilled event like a singer or a dancer or an actor. Because other people, I believe this in my 85 years and when I got a chance, other people love to emulate the best. They want to look like this. They want to play like this. They want to sing like that.
Yeah.
Nowhere else in our society, and go ahead, you look around, you get someone to do your research for you. You can be a scientist, but you're a scientist. You're in a place where you're surrounded by brilliant men working on something, maybe a cure for something, maybe this or that. But it's a singular team. We don't know the people who discovered the best medicines in the world and saved lives over hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Only remembered, sadly, when you talk about the diseases or whatever. But a sport, if your team loses tonight in the championship game, they don't win the football, the soccer.
Yeah.
You'll be mad all the time. You'll have excuses. You'll say the other guy's cheated. You'll say our guy, and what you'll basically say is, we need a Michael Jordan. We need, a Messi. We need that.
Yeah.
That's what I think, what I've watched in my life and where you are in your country.
Yeah.
What has to happen is almost a 360. You got to almost, do the whole thing. And somewhere along the line, your youth has to understand that these things are true. There was a time not too far ago, me being Italian, and the Italians were pretty good in soccer,
Yeah.
And they called it football. But there was a time when they wouldn't have played basketball or the real game of the American game of football on live.
Mhm.
They grew up wanting to be the soccer guy, this
Yeah.
guy.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm trying to say to your audience. When they listen, when you speak to them, it's more than a dream when you can be involved in another person's activity.
I think makes a lot of sense. Hey, before we go ahead, I need a minute of yours. I'm sure if you watched our videos before, you've heard us talk about the GrowthX community. We are a community of 4,000 plus leaders and operators from companies like Apple, TikTok, Slack, Zoom, Spotify, Canva, 11 Labs, Nike, and much more. Our members today represent 90% of all unicorns in India. Now, why do they come to GrowthX and what do they get? See, they get access to 3 unfair advantages. First, they get access to in-person meetups, which is hosted every week across 11 Indian cities, plus an online community where the world's top operators and leaders are just one message away from you. Second, they get to learn from the best in the world across every topic you can think of, and currently it's a lot of AI, strategy, product, growth, brand, and a lot more. And lastly but not the least, they get access to $100,000 worth of exclusive perks from the world's best brands like WeWork, Notion, Mokubara, Lenskart, and a lot more. So 3 unfair advantages for India's most elite professionals. You can learn more about the community with the link in the description. And maybe I'll see you inside. Now with that, let's continue our conversation with Sonny. Now because you said Michael Jordan, I want to, especially for people in India watching this and they may not be aware, I want to rewind back to 1984. So Sonny, you famously convinced Nike to bet their entire basketball budget on Michael Jordan. I think I would love for you to take us to that year and give us some context on what was happening at Nike back then and what gave you so much conviction to bet on Michael Jordan. And if you can paint a picture for us and people listening in to 1984, that'll be helpful.
I can do that. Let me just say this to you. In 1984, before I was involved in Michael Jordan, I only knew Michael Jordan to be a basketball player at the University of North Carolina. I only knew Nike to be someone who had hired me to get college teams to wear the shoe. Therefore, the athletes would wear the shoe. I never thought that there would be a day when they asked me, find one player or 5 players, as they said that first day, to wear our shoe, that we can sell our shoe, that we can market our shoe. Before, everybody knows Converse, a lot of guys wear Converse, tennis people wear Converse. Anybody has to wear a shoe.
Yeah.
But no one understood what maybe was in my mind subconsciously, because I want to tell your audience, I never met Michael Jordan in my life until I met him when he was introduced to me in 1984 at the Olympic Games. Before, I never met him. I knew who he was. I knew a good reputation. And when Michael was finally going to go pro in North Carolina didn't even win the national championship. They weren't the greatest team in America with the greatest player. People forget that. They got by an underrated team from Indiana that year. I remember Michael a long time ago when he was a freshman making a basket to win the national championship when he was 18 years old at North Carolina to beat Georgetown. I was rooting for Georgetown. I never met Michael Jordan. I didn't give a damn about Michael Jordan or North Carolina.
Yeah.
The rest of my life, the next 3 years, I still didn't give a damn about, Michael Jordan until the day that Phil Knight and Rob Schlosser had a meeting. And they invited me to a meeting that I was never involved in before, where they wanted to have, because they had some basketball players that would wear Nike shoes and they'd pay them, and that'd be all. There was no marketing campaigns or other than something in the Sports Center picture. And they asked me a question. And I had no idea what the question was going to be because, like I said, it's the first time I ever was to one of those meetings. And when God gave me the words to say, give it to the kid, I had no idea I was going to say that, except I remembered him in a flash of a second
Yeah.
making that basket. And to me, that basket was the biggest, most important basket in basketball. He was a young man. They had team that year in 81 that had a lot of championship, NBA players and, James Worthy, Hall of Fame players and all that.
Yeah.
And I said, Michael Jordan. Now, to go to your question, why are we here talking? Why was that day so important? Well, if you just want to stay on the most important thing that Michael Jordan did that night and what Nike was able to do and be one of the biggest companies in all the world, built around one man, that was an accident. If Michael Jordan does not sign, please explain to your audience, Nike does not exist today because all you have to do is follow what Phil Knight had said. The reason he put me out there, we had a change. We had, running shoes and all that, but we weren't doing well.
Yeah.
And so now it's all on the line. So when Michael finally listened and we finally got him, into the shoe, it was a big surprise to me also that what he was able to do, because today, as we talked about Caitlin Clark and other girls and whatever, and other players, LeBron, all the great players have signature shoes. And there were other players that went to other shoe companies. Nike didn't get all of them. They had a lot of their own great players. But what Michael Jordan did and why we are talking tonight, these years later, is because Michael Jordan, by that decision and by Nike having to sign him, changed the world of marketing.
Yeah.
I want your audience to listen to what Sonny Vaccaro says now. I'm the one telling you that there would not have been Nike. And so if it wasn't Michael, there wouldn't have been a Jordan if Nike didn't sign him. If that didn't happen, none of these shoe companies, the Adidas's, the Converse, whatever, by history, if you watched the movie, if you watched really what happened, no one had that ability. But Jordan crossovered and he created marketing. He made marketing. That's what he did. He opened the door for marketing. That's why today in America, the Jordan shoe and the Jordan whatever, students study this. They're making new kinds of shoes. They're designing them differently. When I go make my speeches to universities, the first question some of these young men ask is how did Peter Moore remember that? How did he do it? Well, if fate would have had it and we didn't get him, Peter Moore would never, ever have invented Air Jordan. Air Jordan, that name, that emblem, it's on everything.
Yeah.
Air Jordan has billions, not millions, billions things. Every time there's a T-shirt, a shoe, or whatever, it goes back to 1984. What I'm telling you and your audience, that's what opened the gates. Now,
That's true.
So I hope that answers, but it wasn't my genius. It was something in me said, give it to the kid. I didn't know it would be like this. I knew that he would help sell shoes. I knew he was the best person, but I didn't know this. So
lovely.
That's why Nike is Nike.
It makes sense. I think also Sonny, just double clicking on this, and I would love to spend a little bit more time here on how you convinced Michael Jordan to come be a part of Nike. There are some interesting stories on you convincing his mother first and then that helping him coming to Nike? What was that process like? How did you convince him?
I don't think anybody convinces somebody. That's an easy word.
Mm-hmm.
My relationship with Mr. and Mrs. Jordan and Michael was personal. I became their friend, but also I became a person that they can trust his words. It wasn't like socially we socialized. We talked on the phone. I didn't meet Mrs. Jordan as many times as the other thing, but I stayed in touch.
Yeah.
Stayed in touch continuously. When we did something with Michael, when we promoted him, Mrs. Jordan, and it was the mother in America, and especially athletes, in the way the situation goes, because sometimes families don't often stay together, unfortunately. But the mother was always there. And Mrs. Jordan, until this day today, is a personal friend and someone I could call on the phone and say hello to, because I did one thing for sure. I didn't lie to her either, or her son. So to talk to your audience about, you have to know, if you're the person making the pitch, if you're the person who's going to be whatever the next big thing's going to be, you cannot lie. You cannot put yourself in the fire.
Yeah.
Because that is something that, again, I can attribute to the world today. Telling the truth is a very hard thing. And very important people get up in front of the world every day and they don't necessarily tell the whole truth.
Yeah.
Then you have an opposite side to them, or many other sides, that will have an opinion of something. And the reason the confusion exists, and I don't want to get too far away, but I'm trying to make a point to your audience, especially your sports audience. If you have nothing to be afraid of, you being the person that advocates for a player or advocates for a system, when you get caught in that terrible hurricane of lies, then your product will never survive. So, to go back to Mrs. Jordan, even though I haven't seen or talked to her in many, many years, she knows, and Mr. Jordan knew until his death, and Michael knows today, that that's why we have an Air Jordan, because they believe me. They believe what I said we would do, and we did.
I think also, Sonny, the goal when you were signing Michael Jordan was to make like $3 million in 3 years, something like that. But I think you all ended up making more than $120 million in the first year itself. So what happened after the Jordan deal? Like, what did Nike go through? What was the ramp up looking like back then?
Well, if you're asking me, we didn't know how big that was going to be. And I didn't know. I had no idea. None of us knew. Then the numbers come in and they were off the wall, right? I mean, they were unprecedented, $113 million, whatever, 200, whatever that number was. We would say, by my own admission, what we were trying to do was make a couple dollars, grow the brand, and then maybe next year make a couple more dollars. What happened was, like I said in your show to begin with, let's just be a singer in a song. Let's just make a song. The artist sings a song. You never hear that artist, or you don't know, they're just, and all of a sudden that song is wonderful. And tomorrow morning, somebody else hears it, and somebody else. And what you have is a phenomenon. That's what happened with Michael Jordan. And the luckiest thing wasn't just signing Michael, was the logo. There are only so many times that you can sell a shoe, and Michael's going to sell it, and he would have sold whatever. But the thing that makes that shoe valuable today, that people pay big money for it just to have it in their house or something, or show it to friends. It's
Yeah.
the it's the
Yeah.
logo.
Mhm.
The logo did it, and that's
Lovely. Yeah.
that thing. That just what Peter drew. I can't even talk. Is like why did he think of that? How could he think? It
Mm.
wasn't really clever.
Mm.
Very simple.
Yeah.
If you really look at it,
Yeah.
it was a life changing and business changing thing.
God, Sonny, I think it's you were at Nike for a long time. I think now that you have a lot of time to reflect back, how was it like working with the Nike team? How was it like working with Phil Knight back then?
Well, it was wonderful until he fired me. But all of a sudden, for 11 years,
Hmm.
I traveled the whole world with Michael. My wife and I traveled to Europe.
Yeah.
My wife and Michael share the same birthday. We have
Yeah.
birthday cards from Michael to Pam and Pam to Michael. We went to his birthday parties. I slept at his home.
Yeah.
I was his closest friend. You could be being a much older man
Yeah.
than him.
Mhm.
So that part of my life, can never be replicated because I went through a journey with an individual that's journey will never end. And I was there at the beginning.
Yeah.
As far as Phil Knight and I go, he was a good boss. He gave me a lot of leg room to recommend.
Yeah.
I was never personal. He did come to my wedding and Pam's wedding, but it wasn't that kind of a relationship. I mean, it was a business relationship. Phil ran the operation, and the more Michael kept doing, the more Michael, we became bigger. And Michael, well, obviously, Michael made Nike who they are. There's no question about that. You can't run around. So to your question here, life changes. Life
Yeah.
is, you do something, you go to a school and you have a lot of friends in that school. Then you go to college, you leave your high school and you meet new friends, and the old friends at high school aren't there anymore. And as you get older, and that happened to me, and that's what happened, halfway through my life,
Yeah.
I'm no longer involved with Michael Jordan. And
Yeah.
I had to continue my life. But that didn't mean that I had a gun and wanted him, hurt or something. I root for Michael today. I mean, we bought grandkids the Michael T-shirts, the Michael shoes. I mean, Michael's part of our life.
Yeah.
Then Nike did not become part, and I went on with my life. And I went to, maybe other questions, to Adidas, to was the partner, and then to Reebok, and then Nike buys, Converse. Look how convoluted the world is.
Yeah.
Nike ends up buying the company that should have paid him the money, and this never would have happened.
Yeah.
Converse would have bought Nike if he had signed, Jordan, but maybe they wouldn't have, because they wouldn't give him the shoe.
Yeah. No, I think makes a lot of sense. Now, Sonny, again, imagine I'm a 20, 25-year-old young founder watching this and building my sports brand. Imagine I had like $1 million, and I had like my first product ready. What should I do after that? So imagine if I have $1 million. Now my product is ready. What should I do next? Should I go ahead and sign an athlete first? What should I do? What should be my next steps?
Are you in the business of sports thing, or because if you have money and you're investing, and if it's sports or anything to do with young people buying your product, let me say that.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect.
First thing I would do is really what I did with Nike in 1977, when I paid college coaches so the teenagers, their players, could do it. I would do, and I'm sure they do today, I'm sure, is make sure your product, you go to the streets, the gyms, the fields, and you show these kids. Your best, not the geniuses of design, and not to be, they're the kids. Somehow a young person, they know that a song, they know that a story, they know because the world financially revolves around the young. They set the trends. Look at what you see in music today, where and most of them are girls going on these world trips and making billions of dollars because their fan base, they may be 18 years old today or 16-year-old today. But what I want to tell you, what you're doing now with that first $1 million you got, you're hoping that those kids grow up to have children, though their children remember. And everything is a continuation of the beginning. So to your question, my answer would be, if I had a product, would do exactly what Phil asked me to do. How do we get the product on the kids? I would show the right age or the right group of people, whether it's a feminine product or a men's product. They move the needle. It's not the adults with the money. It's the kids who buy and the parents who buy them for them.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. So get your product in front of the kids. They make the trends. So that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I think also, Sonny, imagine if if I'm building a sports brand, and I have my product yet and it's not launched yet though. Now what you did for Nike, signing top athletes like Jordan, but if I'm a new founder, how do I convince an athlete to say, come join me, endorse my brand, or maybe co-build something with me? How do I do that? Because I have no cred currently in the market.
It's a hard do, because we just said you have to get it. The best thing I would do if I were you is I would find a part of your city or a part of your community, whatever it is, that the kids are doing something, whether they're playing basketball, if you're talking about shoes, or talking about basketball, or you're talking about clothing, whatever you're doing, I would go there and see a reaction or show a product. Then I would meet, because not vicarious, but truthfully, then I would meet who's coaching them, who's coaching, mom and dad, or is it the soccer coach, is it the basketball coach, or whatever. I would go to what is now commonly called influencers. So I would go to that playground, that field, and say, what do you guys think of this? I have an idea. I'm still drawing. I'm not there yet. What do you think? And then you ask them. I believe that at a young age, they're too ignorant to be selfish. I mean that by I think selfishness comes when you think you're better than what you are. But when you're on that playground or you're on that field, you're just competing with a bunch of other kids, and you have no advantage when you go to a neighborhood. It's not like, again, I want to use the analogy to you. It's not like another product where you're going to go to a college that, they master in these particular things. This is what and you're talking to adults. Product has got to be, if it's in what I'm thinking here, shoes or clothing for young people, it's on playgrounds, and they'll have a guy there. How many times in sport, and you've watched this in India, I'm sure, and I know I've watched it a million times. Some of my best people that gave me the ideas for the next generations of Michaels, when I did all my camps, the ABCD and all the other things, I didn't know those kids. But a stranger would call me and say, Mr. Vaccaro or Sonny, I got this player in Chicago. I got this player in Atlanta. Why do you come? And I got them today. I had these calls today. I did. That there's a young man that's going to be, a sophomore at a great school, and they don't know about him, but he's having a great summer. And I know this coach. I haven't seen this coach in years, but he calls me. And so first thing I said, send me a couple films. Let me look. That's what you got to do. Go out there and just, see, right now you're talking about a beginner who has maybe some money to invest.
Yes.
You got a good idea. You got a good design. But you really don't have inroads. You can't walk into a Converse or a big company and say, they're going to tell you what Nike told me. They remember in my book, I told you, they never gave me my shoes back that I brought there. Remember when I brought the shoes? They kept the shoes. They sent them to Exeter. I never saw those shoes again. That young guy in my little hometown, he designed those things. And a couple of them happened. They never gave them back. So that's what I'm afraid to tell you. No one, you'll lose it. They'll come and they'll say to their guy you're talking to, well, he's a nice guy. You can do what you want for him, but I'll get you an NIL deal too, or I'll get you too. He's more equipped. But if you go to the family or you go to his coach or someone who's growing with him, they'll be loyal to you. They'll at least what they will do is open up the door for you to get a producer, to get a manufacturer, to get whatever. But once you just show that around just because you want to show somebody something, you're proud of it, don't be so free with your ideas. Tell your clientele. You can choose where you go, what field you go to. I hope that helped a little bit too.
No, that makes sense. So basically, get people in on your process early on, go to the coaches, try to build very special relationships and personal relationships with these people, and go to people in your communities and influencers around you rather than going for the big guy first.
That's the system I used 100 years ago, and you can use it. Make the personal contact. If it's mom or dad, that makes it easier, but it'll probably still be a coach.
Yep.
They'll probably be 13 or 14-year-old yet because he's not been exposed. He's in some small town in some little state somewhere. And you go in and say, okay, I got something here.
Makes sense.
You come. You control what you're doing. It's your product, but you need some help. And that's the help. The youngest one is going to help you the most because they're the most innocent. Because if they were a star, they don't need you. Caitlin didn't need somebody, right? I mean, she got as many she wanted. And all the girls today, I keep bringing it up because it happened so quick. So quick. And all of a sudden, she's, boom. She signed
Makes sense.
cereal box tops and all that, which is wonderful. That's after you got to get there.
No, makes a lot of sense. I think, Sonny, recently I've been in the market for running shoes here in India. So I've been looking at all these brands. I've been looking at Adidas, Puma, Reebok, Nike. But something that's interesting and something that stood out for sure is the storytelling that Nike does. I think the way they write copy, their photography, the way they make videos, I think it stands out massively. I think stands out more than any other brands, at least here in India for sure. I just wanted to understand, what have they cracked? What do they get that sports brands here in India can learn from them?
Okay, what you're asking me is Nike has the ability to do everything the best coming out of the box. Am I right? They have the best designers. They have the best colorers. They have the best mix of paint, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and their marketing stands out more than anyone else, at least from where I have been looking at, right? So the way they communicate, the way they make these videos, the way they tell stories stands out more than a lot of other brands that are competitors.
Well, they're billionaires. They have all the right. They've hired masters of one specific thing. They'll hire a person who can make the paint, can make the story better. They have masters that I'm saying masters, the employees obviously, but they once they sign you, they have a school. They own all of basketball, all the summer schools, all the camps that are now running. There's no more Sonny Vaccaro at ABCD camp. Nike owns all these things, and they have a system that's bred from very young. They basically picked the American team, if we're going to stay on basketball, because they control it. Nike sponsors everything. So when you see New Balance, or you see some of these other teams, like the kid from Duke, he's now going to go, I think the New Balance, where he signed his own deal. The kid that just signed for Duke didn't sign at Nike, the great, flag, Cooper. But he didn't sign with Nike because the other guys got him when he was in high school. So in today's world and in your world, you can't compete. They can't compete unless you do something when they're young. You got to find that guy because you're not going to get a chance at him once he gets to the NBA or even college today. They've covered everything, and that's nothing to do with the people running it or the man who has the product or who has the player. It only has the Nike will just smother you out. They own the sport.
Makes sense. I think staying on the Indian aspect, a lot of sports brands are coming up in India, Sonny. But interestingly, all of them have gone after a functional use case. So they promise things like, hey, I make the best shoes, or I make the best running shorts, or I make the best t-shirts, for example. But there are very few brands doing storytelling like the American counterparts, right? Like Nike does it, or Adidas, or Reebok does it. What are Indian brands missing, and what can they learn from these players?
Okay, I'm confused to your question because we keep coming back. Nike does it because you can't do it. They smother you out. So it's conversation. There's a magic to what you're asking me. I know, but the only answer I can give you is to give you a better sense of who Nike is. You could be a guy 30 people down. You may be the guy that just brings the box to the kid when he's there, and then he waits till the kid gives it back to him.
Yeah,
that's how big they are. That's how strong they are. So when you look at the competition, it's really got to be, you've got to find that young person before they find them, and you've got to be ready to do what they would do. And it would be easier for you to compete against Nike if you or whoever you're advising would do this. Look for the young one that's not spoiled yet, just not Nike brains yet, because once he gets to the thing of everybody knowing him, they pick and choose who they want, and then they leave you. That doesn't mean that the other boys or girls, men or women, aren't good. That means they're gonna cover the marketing. They're gonna cover all that, and they're going to, Caitlin's like on everything. There's a couple other girls, and you're watching, if you're following women's sport, you're watching a couple great women basketball players have real problems with Caitlin today, because even though a couple of them are still with Nike, they're not being traded like Caitlin. And that was like the early days of Jordan. You realize we had Charles Barkley. We had a lot of great players. Still, a lot of them. Yeah. No one knew they were wearing a shoe when Michael was wearing his shoe. Remember that. If you go back and watch that draft that year, and I'll just use Barkley, because there's probably no one more popular than he or Shaquille O'Neal, who have made millions of dollars in marketing. They cracked through. But if you go back to Charles, and I leave, what's his name out of it, Shaq out of it, because that wasn't the same year. I'm pointing out to Michael's year. That was filled with Hall of Fame players. You can't remember none of them. You can remember them having their shoe and making a lot of money, but that's all you remember. You remember them because they're on television now. They're a good host, but you don't know what the hell shoe they're wearing. That's what happens when you get that person, young fellow.
No, makes sense. I think, Sonny, not a lot of people can say that they were played by Matt Damon in a Hollywood movie. I think for people watching and who have not seen Air yet, I would love for you to go and tell me the story of how the movie came along and what was it like seeing yourself being portrayed in a movie.
Well, I had nothing to do. I didn't know they were making the movie.
Mhm.
They just did a documentary on me called Soul Man. It was very popular. And before that, a couple of years, I had, I had not been with Nike. I was doing other things for the athletes and trying to get involved with the Oban, other thoughts in my mind.
Mhm.
The people in Hollywood called me. I knew the guy that was going to be a producer of it, and I knew the owner, Peter Goober. They invited me to come to Beverly Hills, my
Yeah.
wife and I, to his home. He was and is a big movie producer. He's won Academy Awards. He's as big as there is. He owns 25% of the Golden State team and 25% of the Brooklyn Dodgers. He's pretty successful. His name's Peter Goober. He invited Pam and I to his home in Beverly Hills. And I met 12 other people that I did not know. And they looked me in the eye and they said, we're going to do a movie and we want you to be involved. And I said about Michael Jordan. Now, you may or may not remember, and your audience may not remember, I also did a 3-hour interview on The Last Dance. That was the famous, documentary of Michael Jordan. 3 hours. I had not talked to Michael or the people at Nike in all those years, but they came to me, and the man I knew that did it promised me if I just come in for 3 hours, they would use, because it's a long, long documentary.
Yeah.
And I said they're not going to do it, but my friend asked me, and I did do it. So I want to tell your audience there that they cut me completely out. The only time my face showed on The Last Dance was the last scene where you'll see me getting out of the car with Michael to take him to Nike that day. I was lied to. They lied and they embarrassed me and they made me feel horrible. Now Peter Gruber's going to do a movie. He calls me and asks me to come down to his house. And he looks me in the eye and he says, we're going to do a movie. We want you involved on being the man who signed Michael Jordan. Yeah. We want to be you. We're going to get a person to play you. Michael Jordan's not going to be physically in this movie, but he'll be in the movie. How did you sign? You have to understand now that thing when I signed only lasted 3.5 months.
Yeah.
See, people think I was with Michael for 3.5 years before.
No. Mm-hmm.
I go to Peter Gruber's house. He introduced me to, the writer. And he introduced me to guys who are going to do it. And now Ben's not on board yet. Neither is Matt. But they tell me they're on board, but they got to get me to do it. I did not want to do it. I was afraid that I'm just going to go there and be an add-on. But they convinced me, to be part of it.
Yeah.
And my role was I would be the real Sonny Vaccaro in the movie. Michael wouldn't even be in it, so we're not going after, on the Michael thing. But everything having to do, and that movie showed how it really happened. And I believe now the movie comes out, Matt Damon plays me, obviously, and all the characters are in the movie. I mean, so you asked me a question about Matt. I mean, obviously the man's won 2 Academy Awards. He's one of the most famous actors in the whole world. And, he certainly was. But I can say to you and your audience that everything I said in that movie, right up to the final, when they credits, they put them all down and they put Peter and Robin and all that stuff, happened. That movie is truthful. That's how it was done. It was not easy to get the movie done, but it was easier to sell the truth once the movie was done because there was no having to run back. So Matt was great to have someone, play Mrs. Jordan. I mean, it's unbelievable. We had some of the best actors and actors in the world in that movie. I mean, it was hard for anybody to reject.
Yeah.
And it made my life, it opened that movie opened the life for my book.
Yeah.
because once that movie was out, there was nothing I could say what this movie is like that book. My book is like that movie. There's
Mm.
no lies in that movie. And I gained strength because Peter Guber and the people on Sundance believed in me, and they put the truth in that documentary, that movie, Air
Yeah.
turned me around.
Wow, that's fascinating. I think lovely. I think very goosebumpy story, Sonny. Very interesting. Uh, cool. I think Sonny, you've been in this unique position in your life where you've essentially spotted and gotten people like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James when they were fairly like not the big names as they are today. So again, if I'm like an early founder watching this, and you've said this constantly, get that young person in. How do I get good at scouting people like this early?
That's not a class. You don't go to a class to spot talent or sing a song or do
Mhm.
anything out of your regular body. You are gifted with something. I'm not saying it as a braggadocio, but people have gifts. You have a gift for running your show, asking your questions, knowing where you're going. That's a gift. You take a class for journalism or broadcast. You do that. But once you're on this camera, it's you. It's
Yeah.
your questions. It's your feeling. So to say to you, how did I know? There were things that they did off the court. Kobe Bryant impressed me before I even saw him play. He impressed me when he was a junior in high school and not played in California and in Italy. He just came to, and I'll never forget this for your audience. I fell in love with Kobe Bryant when my camp was over, the ABC camp. He was a stranger. He didn't go to high school in Philadelphia that year, so this was his coming out party, so to speak. And we had he made the All-Star team, the junior All-Star team, and there was a senior All-Star team. We had all that, so he made the All-Star team, the junior. When the camp was over, and I knew his mother and father because I knew them because his father was a great player. Joe Bryant was a great player. He won the most valuable player in my high school All-Star game, Kobe's father. So now Kobe runs over to me and he says, "I want to thank you, Mr. Vaccaro. I want to thank you for inviting me to camp, but I want to apologize." Now you're listening.
Yeah.
Oh, there's nothing to apologize. You made the All-Star team. And Kobe Bryant said to me that day, "No, Mr. Carroll, I'm coming back next year and I'm going to be the MVP of the whole camp."
Wow.
His mind was 1 year ahead of all the things he was going to do that summer because he hadn't not got on the American summer, thing, all the tournaments from this thing. He told me that. And I knew then that he was special mentally.
Wow.
He was convinced. And until one of the most unfortunate things that happened in my lifetime, when I've lost a lot of friends, was the suddenness and the sadness of Kobe's death.
Yeah.
Because while he played like what he said on that day to me: "I'm going to win the MVP. I'm going to be an all-star. I'm going to be the MVP. I'm going to win national championships." And he did. So I would say to you, the only other one that I'll go into for a minute, LeBron I spotted when he was a sophomore in high school. But Tracy McGrady was also one because everybody knew about LeBron eventually, everybody eventually knew. Tracy was going to be a senior. He didn't play in high school. He got kicked out. I almost didn't take him. My wife convinced me to take him because we'd all been fair with kids. And Tracy McGrady turns out to be a Hall of Famer, first ballot, unbelievable player, an unbelievable human being. And what it was my faith in the individual, his willingness to put himself on trial because he was the odd guy out at that camp. Everybody else had names already. And he came to camp and he was number one out of 175. And that's
Wow.
the legacy of Tracy. And that's why we just talked to his people this morning. It's a small world. You asked that question. But to tell you, the thing about spotting talent, sometimes it's more than watching him put the ball in a hoop or kick the ball in the puck and all that stuff. Sometimes it's the person that tells you a long time ago, I'm going to bust my rear end and I'm going to be the best I can very well be. That's, I think, the gift that God gave me. I can spot that, I guess.
That's extremely lovely. I think, Sonny, makes a lot of sense. But Sonny, I think something that you sort of understood very early on was the fact that individual athletes, like everyone we have spoken about, could go and become bigger than their teams, could go and become bigger than their leagues, could become brands in themselves. I think we are seeing some of that happening in India, especially with IPL coming in, and we have cricket here, which gains as much traction as basketball in the US. But when did that insight or that observation come to you that, hey, these athletes will go and become bigger than the brands themselves, and they will become brands in themselves, and they'll build huge businesses?
I think, to be very honest, I think that's what I always believed in when I fought for the athlete to get paid.
Yeah.
Because it took the abandoned trial and him to win in court to open these doors. Because for 100 years, this sinful operation called the NCAA held back the athlete. We saw great tennis players and soccer players make money when they were 15 and 16. But in America, they turned these kids into slaves, really. They owned them. So they were always able to do that. But I think the best thing I ever did in my life was help O'Bannon overcome what the NCAA has now opened up. And now, what I don't know if you realize what you said, Jeb, but what you said was very, very prominent. What you see today are big corporations running basketball or football. They're representing players. Collectives are called. They're all there. Phil Knight now owns his own team in Oregon as opposed to just sponsoring them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that because everywhere else in the world, that's what you do. I remember the old days when the African kids really had nowhere to go to play basketball. And all of a sudden, Europe opened up. They were playing for some of the European teams. And they would go over there and get paid and get taught. And they'd have a manager. And then all of a sudden, we wake up one day and the all-star team is no longer just American. It's people from every continent. Everybody's playing. China, Yao Ming was the first guy, but he not the last, was he? He was like the first guy. But see what happens when you open up a product and the product is, I want to make this maybe last on your thing. The product, young fella, is the athlete. Product is the athlete. All they need is freedom. And in America, in the NBA right now, you're watching games today. There's no playoff game. The players make more money than anything, but it's the players who earn the money. The players that people go see. They don't go see the coach draw X and O. They don't go. I'm just being very honest with you. It's all about the act. The performer, the singer, the drawer, the artist. Guy who writes a book. That's what it is. All about the talent.
Lovely. I think, Sonny, I just have final 2-3 questions for you.
Okay, go ahead.
But I think so this is something that's happening, which is out of the top 5 leagues in the world today, top 3 are American. So I think the NFL, which is the football league, the NBA, which is basketball, and then MLB, which is baseball, come in top 3 with the valuations that they have. India has IPL, which is the Indian Premier League, which is centered around cricket. It's today the 5th most valuable league in the world. But I wanted to sort of go into what did USA gets about building multiple sports and building multiple sporting leagues that have become so big. And what are some things that India can learn from here? Because in India, it's primarily always revolving around cricket. So what can India learn here when it comes to the US and them understanding that, hey, we can go ahead and build multiple sporting leagues that can become massive?
Then I think you can do. I think anybody can build a sporting league and make it massive.
Mm-hmm.
Because a sporting league is like a singer that sings different songs or an actor that does different plays. See,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're cricket, right?
Yep.
Right? Okay. It's unbelievable, the popularity in your country. But
Yeah.
what you basically did, and a lot of the countries or foreign, people who are running everything were blinded by the love of your game, cricket. You didn't
Yep.
know anything else existed. And the skill sets are there, the humanity is there, the competition is there.
Mm-hmm.
But when someone, and I say this blindly because I am not the right one to answer, I never looked at cricket in my life other than saying, what is that? You watch a guy hit the ball, whatever. And the reason is your fault, your country, because you got so wrapped up in cricket that you forgot that young people can do other things. You said baseball, basketball, and football. If you look at the origins of baseball, basketball, and football in America, you'll see very, very plainly how they grew. I mean, all struggled. They all struggled. And, in the early part of the century on all sports, blacks weren't even included in playing the games. But eventually they found out that that'd be pretty good to let everybody play the game. And then you saw Europeans started coming to be part of it. The football game, not soccer, the football game in America, look what they're doing. They're playing games in England and this and that. And eventually there will be a European team. And eventually it's not that kids in Europe or any of the countries can't play. It's they don't know how to play. They don't know how to play. And if you go watch basketball is the to me the number one sport in the world because you only need a little wee court. So you only need 10 guys to play the game. Close to the audience and the players mix. They're undressed. You know who they are. You know when they swear, when they high five.
Yeah.
You are part of the game. You, fan, are part of the game. And that's why I won't be here to watch it. Then you will. You're young. That's why it'll be the number one game in the world soon because everybody can play basketball and has an opportunity. So the fields don't hurt you. The weather doesn't hurt you. The proximity. But what your country has done, and I don't know what else, I'm not going to be negative at all.
Yeah.
You fell in love with a game that you love and you didn't move on.
Yeah.
You stayed there. You stayed in that spot. You were comfortable. It was nice to win the cup or whatever it is you win.
Yeah.
That's not where you are today, young fella. And I believe you can't be a baseball player. You can't be a football. Yes, you can. But you didn't know how. You didn't know what that took. You will know sooner. I just didn't want to beat you up with the cricket, but I want to tell you why I think you didn't know. You were in
No, makes sense.
Yeah, and you didn't want any girlfriends or boyfriends. You just wanted to play cricket.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I think, Sonny, this is something that the team was very interested in asking you. So you've been in the most high stakes negotiations, I'm assuming, when it comes to getting all of these players in and negotiating with their coaches, teams, and then the brands. What is something about negotiation that you've understood that you believe contributes to your success or has contributed to your success till date that a young founder can learn from?
That's the best question, the easiest question I can answer.
Mhm.
I was forced not to tell the truth when Adidas screwed up on LeBron.
Mhm.
They lied to me and I quit. The best thing you can do is tell the truth to the client, to the player, to the team, whatever it is. Do what you think. Now, the second part of that, and just going back to those guys we talked about, and even Tracy, because Tracy went out and got bids from Nike. The other thing, even in the LeBron thing, if they would not have lied to me,
Mhm.
might have won the bidding anywhere. But never in any negotiation did I say to anybody, this is my maximum. I'm going to give you
Mm.
$100 million. I probably would have, because I had to give Tracy more than what I first offered them. That happens. So you can't put yourself in a corner. Don't
Yeah.
say that's what Adidas, that's what Converse did and Adidas did with Michael. Well,
Mhm.
why not? We got Magic Johnson. We got this. They put themselves in that corner by
Mhm.
saying we're not going above them, and maybe someday you might be them. Nobody wants to hear someday you might be. Somebody wants to hear you are today. Pay me my value.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, don't make your last offer, but don't lie. And
Mm.
that contract forced me to quit because I didn't lie. My company lied and I quit. And that was the biggest challenge my wife and I had in life. I left a pretty
Yeah.
good job. I thought
Yeah.
I'd go to my death, and Peter was running it and Rob started it. And it was a challenge. I wanted to go against Nike, but they lied to me and I couldn't let that happen.
No, makes sense. I think, Sonny, final question from me. Just reflecting back on the career that you've had. I think, imagine again a 20, 25-year-old young person is watching this and is either working in or wants to get into the field of sports marketing. I think it's now coming up in India a lot. Thanks to all these leagues coming up, we have GrowthX members who work for these sporting teams now, in their growth functions and in their marketing functions. What can I, as a young person, learn from you and the career that you had over the last 4 or 5 decades? So, yeah, some advice that you would give to me if I'm coming into the field of sports marketing.
Well, it was different, 1,000 years ago, but I can tell you what I'd do today. And I just talked to a young man that I knew vicariously. He was with Tracy McGrady in Africa, I believe, today. And
Mhm.
he's with Tracy now, and they're doing new projects, and we're talking to them about it. But he remembered me from the camp. He knew who I was. So what I want to say to you is, if I'm starting today, and I'm a 21-year-old guy, and I would find a major agency,
Mhm.
marketing agency, and I would go to them, and whatever the beginning price was, whatever it was, position myself to get a job. Then I would say to myself, while I'm there, I'm not only going to do the job they want me, I'm going to do the job that they didn't think I could do.
Mm.
Well, you get a better education on the spot because they're dealing with the athletes. There's
Yeah.
different athletes. Some of these big companies now are worth multi-billion dollars. I remember Jeff Schwartz when he was just starting, and he got Caitlin, and and I knew Jeff when he came to me with Jerry West for advice. He was in
Yeah.
tennis, but that's what I would do if somebody
Yeah.
listening to you or watching your thing today. Go get a job with a marketing company.
Mhm.
Keep your mouth shut, your eyes and ears open, and do more than what your job says you are. You're young. You're
Yeah.
young. Learn, meet people, thank them for introducing you. Blah, blah, blah. Get involved. Let them know who you are, but don't lie. Don't pretend
Mm.
you're somebody that you're not. Don't ever say, I can get this, I can get that done if you can't, because you should be fired immediately. Don't
Yeah.
lie.
Lovely. So, go to like a big sports marketing agency, say your thank yous, thank people for introducing you, get at the base level, and don't lie. That's the framework.
and go to work.
Go to work. Lovely.
Go read about who the next phenom is and be there before. Go to those playgrounds I talked about. But your boss, those big companies will tell you what to do. They're amazing today.
Lovely. I think, Sonny, I could go on forever with you. But I think, thank you for your time. I think I had the most fun time shooting this with you, 1.5 hours. And yeah, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.
God bless you. Good luck to you. Please stay in touch, okay?
Yes. Thank you so much, Sonny. Have a good night.